Hi everyone, welcome to Squirrel Brain Stories. Just a little reminder right here at the beginning, we're going to be talking about heavy topics. Please make sure to take care of yourself, reach out to a friend if this triggers something in you. Make sure you drink your water, take your meds, and just maybe if you're not in a good place, today is not the day for this, come back to us later. Hi everyone, welcome back to Squirrel Brain Stories. I'm Adria and I'm here, of course, with Angela.
Hi.
So last week we ran through a lot of stuff, but there's a fun little piece of information that Angela's found out in the last couple of weeks. I know when we had Nico and your brother on, we kind of touched on the fact that maybe Memo wasn't actually a real pastor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the previous members, Mark Helmberger, he's now deceased. He was actually a legal, a real bishop person, a registered, whatever, credentialed, whatever you call it. And before he passed away, he started investigating Memo, and he contacted Multnomah Bible College. And it turned out that Memo actually didn't graduate from the college, but he told, everyone knew that he was, he graduated from Multnomah Bible College. And it turns out that he was causing a lot of conflict in the college. And they advised him to go set up some appointments with a certain type of people to, help resolve conflict or issues. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but then he ended, he was eligible for graduation, but he never went to graduation to get his diploma.
How is he still eligible?
I don't know. That's what Teresa told me, that Mark, her dad, had found out before he passed away. So I was trying to get his notes from his wife, but it sounds like there's not any notes left. So I have an email out to them.
To the Bible College? Mm-hmm. Have they responded yet?
No, that was about 2 months ago. I emailed them.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, I feel like it was before Nico. It was before Memo. It was when I was just doing my story that I reached out to them.
Damn.
And I said, do you realize that this guy went to your Bible college and he graduated from your college, and these are the crimes, and here are some articles for you to look at, and he's part of a bigger picture, bigger scope of this cult. How are you guys handling the doctrine to prevent this from happening in the future? And I haven't heard back from them. But they're in a transition. They're being bought out by Jesuit. So, I don't know.
At that point, it won't matter to them.
Yeah. Because it's not their legacy. It's not their legacy, and that's what I mentioned something along those lines. I said, you guys there's this big transition happening with Multnomah Bible College. And do you want this to be part of your legacy? You guys created this man.
Yeah. And that's the dangerous thing, right? About when manipulative people with horrible intentions become educated and get the tools necessary to better manipulate others.
Yeah.
It's like a narcissist becoming a therapist. Like, it is a terrifying prospect, and it happens, and it's
typical criminal behavior. Find the weakness.
Yeah. Well, know it inside and out.
Yeah.
And it's just, and so many people, because last week we talked about how there very, very likely is still a sect of this cult active right now, right this very second. And it's all stemmed from people who believed in the lie that he sold.
Yeah. That are, for whatever reason, when you're in that situation, you have a blindfold on, and there's only so much you can see until you're ready to see the rest.
And when we talked last week about people not caring the way that they should for others,
And I know we talked about it really early on in the podcast, but I don't think it can be said enough that there is a huge misconception when it comes to the general public looking at adults within cults. It is the same way they look at people in abusive relationships. You should have just packed up and left. This is obviously your fault. You were a willing participant.
And that's the main problem. That's why
Yes.
a lot of these women stay in these situations, because when they finally do get out, they're going to be the bad person in the story, because why did they take so long to get out when all of this was happening all along?
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yep,
Either
exactly.
you should have left to begin with, or, you know.
I have personal experience of this.
It's
with my children.
It's so maddening that people don't understand, even if there is no physical abuse happening, coercive control, and being emotionally manipulated and abused, being gaslit every second of every day will completely break down not just your sense of self, but your perception of reality. Because if I walk outside and the sky is blue and literally all my husband tells me all day, every day is the sky is red, you're a fucking idiot. How does that look blue to you? That's fucking red. Enough of that. And in your situation within the cult, combined with malnutrition, sleep deprivation,
exhaustion.
Exactly. Combined with all of that, I will eventually believe that the sky is red.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And people, I think people as a whole don't want to admit that, because then that means that they are susceptible to that same type of manipulation. And they had me so brainwashed that when the abuses started coming out, I felt like I was going to hell, because God did not see me worthy enough to carry the same weight that some of the others were carrying. Now, can you explain to me how fucked up that is? Do you think that's a form of like survivor's guilt?
It could be.
Kind of feeling like, well, I thought what I had was bad, but what they have is worse. And how come, I got the lesser end of it? Why did I get the better deal?
Yeah, but, if you're getting trials and tribulations, you're proving your faith to God and, your trust and your patience. And, I felt like God wasn't testing me in certain things. And I felt like maybe I just wasn't worthy enough. And that's what these places do. They tear down your self-worth so much that you question, like, what's your purpose in life? You're just garbage, like, make it make sense, And
then you also have that, the idea that you should be okay the moment you walk out, right? That you should have it all together, that you should, boom, it's automatic. You walk out those doors and a switch flips and you are a fully functional, aware person who can make better decisions than were ever modeled for you. And in reality, you stopped growing at about 10, 11 years old. And then you had a long period of time where you were behaving as somebody going through their teens, going through their early 20s.
Oh my gosh.
Well into adulthood, well into parenthood, because you had stopped. You had 100% stopped. And I don't think we're going to see any lasting changes in the way that we protect children. Like we talked about last week about wanting to get laws passed. We're not going to be able to protect them until we admit as a whole that not everything is the parent's fault.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bad parents. There's a lot of people out there that should not be parents.
Yep. I will say that till the end of time.
But there is definitely a lot of systems that allow this stuff to continue.
And that don't allow for the recovery of adults leaving abusive situations, regardless of what they look like.
Yeah.
Because when you escape things like that, it should be mandatory that you're in therapy. It should be mandatory that you're in some sort of financial literacy training, mandatory that you're going to parenting classes, that you're going
relationship.
to you're, in that kind of counseling that if you're on substances, you go to a fucking 12-step. You have to learn how to function
in society.
And society has to agree that you need space and time to function. You need some allowances and some grace. Mm-hmm. But again, admitting that you need that means admitting that they could be in your situation. And I think that that's too scary for people. I think that there's a sense of being better than someone who chose to be in a cult. Or someone who chose an abusive man, because of course he was abusive before.
And that comes into part of the things that I'm trying to process. You know that I am not an emotional person. Like, we were taught that emotion was bad. Emotion was evil. It needs to stay away because it is worldly. It is fleshly. It is vain. So, I'm not very good with emotions at all. I've been learning and I've been getting better, and my husband's been helping me with this, and even with the kids, learning to, take a step forward and give them a hug, and making yourself get into a routine before bedtime. I love you. And on the one day he forgot to say, I love you, the next morning, I was like, you forgot to tell me you love me before bed. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm like, if you forget again, I'm not going to walk you to school in the morning. He knew I was joking with him, but I totally threatened him, and he does not forget ever again. I know.
He's such a sweetie.
So making routines like that to kind of train myself, because I know I lack a lot of skills, but when I can identify a skill, or if someone brings something to my attention, I definitely try to make an effort, like showing emotion. I love you before bedtime, taking a step forward and giving a head or a hug, and just, telling them how good of a job they did on that drawing or on that painting or whatever. Like, that's awesome. You did a great job. And engaging with them in conversation, not just them there on their electronics and sitting in a dark room, but engaging with them, having a conversation like, what do you like? Or what do you think about this movie? And, I'm trying to notice my faults and improve them, because I know there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, and I never learned, and I love to learn. So if I know about it, I want to learn about it,
Yeah. All of the things people take for granted, their natural ability to do it. They don't remember a time that they had to learn to be comfortable with physical contact.
Yeah.
And learn to be comfortable with crying or showing too much excitement or.
Yeah. And, coming out of that too, and one of the things that I've been processing is feeling ashamed, like ashamed, embarrassed. Like, I feel like I'm smarter than, without even going to much school at all my entire life. I feel like I'm a little smarter just because of my experience, and I like to learn as much as I can. And there's just huge embarrassment and shame for, like, how could I be in the middle of a situation like that? How can I feel like, how can I have not seen sooner what I was in? How did I not know the steps to take, like reporting the fraud, not having to file a bankruptcy and screwing up my credit because my husband had $20,000 of forged credit cards in my name? Why did I have to file bankruptcy? Because I didn't know, so there's so many things like that. And it just makes you feel ashamed and embarrassed, because, like, how did I not know? Because right now I would know what to do.
And we've talked about it before, and I hope anybody listening takes this to heart, but it's not fair to put the knowledge you have now on the person you were back then. It's just not. That would be like me expecting your youngest to know how to drive a car. You were never taught. You may have watched me drive, but you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what the gear shift is for. You don't know which pedal is the gas and the brake. You don't know how to use a turn signal. So why would teenage him expect 10-year-old self him to be able to do it? But I get that there is something comforting in blaming yourself. And when I do that, it's because part of me is still unwilling to accept that there are people that cruel in the world that would go out of their way to harm someone and break them so completely. Sometimes it's easier to feel like it's your fault because the alternative is just so fucking dark. It's dark and it's heavy, but I've told you before, you did the absolute best you could with what you had and what you knew.
The whole experience is just, as I've been going through everything and all of my memories and documenting everything I recall, and it's just so violating, the whole thing. Like, I just feel so violated as a person, as a human. Like,
well, it's because
why?
You weren't treated as a person or a human. You were an object, a possession, a means to an end, a tool to make sure people knew your first husband was straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure he could stay in the country.
So I wanted to tell everyone about some exciting news. I was on a podcast last week. It was really awesome. The two hosts were our nurses, Ellie and Ree, and they were awesome. It was really a great experience. Yeah. It felt really natural being questioned because I love storytelling. Yeah. But I think I get nervous on the podcast because I'm not sitting in front telling someone and someone's not interacting. But the podcast felt just totally normal. And I didn't have any squirrels jumping around, messing things up. So I think the podcast might be released in a week or so. Okay. So I'll reach out to them. I'm going to see if, I can post it, and maybe ask if they'd like the opportunity to come and speak on ours, because they were the ones that, they reassured me that the case with the hospital, the bruises and stuff during the delivery, they're like, no, that should have been investigated. You really need to look into that, because that definitely was a huge no-no. We are, basically in summary, that's what they said. So, and then that's why I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to start calling around and talking to a lawyer, because, it's not that I'm trying to make all this money, that's not my goal. It's
just about people being held accountable.
If you break a law or a rule, there should be consequences. I expect them for myself. I expect them to be for my children. If they do something wrong, there's going to be consequences. Yeah. We don't learn if there's no consequences. Policies aren't changed if people aren't learned lessons through consequences. So,
I'd be interested to know what can be done, because at this point we're talking 30 years later. I don't think there's any licenses to be stripped. I don't think there's any.
Well, the hospital itself,
Yeah.
Because they have a hospital policy that's supposed to be followed.
Yeah.
And the policies in their, policy and procedures for the hospital. So yeah, that was really fun being on a podcast. So again, guys, go check out their podcast, Forensic Nurse Files. They're just thanking me.
They wrote you a little love note.
Yeah, they wrote me a sweet letter. Can I share it? Yeah. Okay.
It's yours.
They said, "Hi, Angela. We just wanted to reach out and say thank you for taking the time to come on our podcast. We know that you are likely busy with life and growing your own podcast, so we are thankful for your time. Keep fighting, be loud, take up space. Your story plus all the others that experience what you have or similar deserve to be heard. We are in full support." So thank you, guys. And they wanted me to, remain in contact so I can give them some updates. And like I said, I'm interested in inviting them on our podcast to, get one-on-one with them.
No, it'd be really cool to have them on as the legal side starts to take form and snowball, and be like, hey, are you ready for this?
I know.
Are you ready for this update?
I know it's going to be fun. And then another piece of news. Tomorrow I'm going to be on another podcast as a guest.
Nice.
The podcast is called Here. So like here for number 4 and then you, YOU. So Here for You. And it sounds like, what I know about them, they like to invite guests that have, personal stories to tell, like, what molded their life, things they've experienced, just a lot of personal stories. So
yeah,
I think that it's going to be exciting.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
And she'll let us know how it goes next week when we're back.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think it's wonderful that you're getting to go and spread it and get other perspectives.
Well,
it's
at some point I need to go on Mormon stories. We need to finish my application, but Buck, used to do some.
He used to be a dirty Mormon.
Yeah. Well, I think he helped build some stuff for.
Built the site.
Built the website. Yeah.
Oh,
he built the Mormon Stories website. So Buck has it inside, whatever you call it. My brain went dead. So that will be at some point once I get my stuff done. There's just been so much other stuff.
No, because you're busy finding all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't stop. Ask Buck. It's like a Energizer bunny over here. He's like, I don't know what to do, but you're running around and I just feel guilty for just sitting here and playing on my game. And I'm like, you can't do this. I have to do this.
Oh my goodness.
But he's very supportive. 150%.
Well, of course he is. He's the producer. He had to jump on and support.
I mean, there are perks.
Move it along.
Gross.
So
I wanted to touch on all the people you've inspired to come forward.
Okay.
There's a big number of them now.
Yeah. So far on the podcast, we have interviewed Nico. He's given his story on the podcast.
Yes.
He's one of the child survivors. And then we have interviewed my brother, Michael Bowen. He is also a survivor, although he had a different take on it, different time of his life.
Yeah, we were talking about it, that the cult kind of felt like it was set up in little rings where you had that very tight-knit inner circle that like Nico was a part of, that knew all the dirt.
What was the word you called it? Cabin boy? Oh, okay, cabin boy.
Yeah, we're not going to elaborate.
No.
I thought about it, but we're not going to. Use your imaginations, please. So there was that really tight inner circle, and then there was like a secondary circle where you were by connection of your first husband, and then you had the periphery, which is kind of where Michael was.
Yeah.
And so the other people that have reached out were much closer. They were in those first and second circles, really getting the picture that Memo never wanted to get out of who he actually was what he was doing. And
he wanted to repent.
The type of men he was protecting, and not just protecting, but hand selecting to stand next to him and to abuse without consequences.
Yeah. And his proteges, the leader that stayed behind in the splinter, as we heard in Adriana and Anna's podcast and their testimony, he went to their mother and father with them present and told them not to go forward because DHS would take them away, take the children away.
Yeah, just those levels of manipulation.
And so it went on for years later until it finally was reported again, but this time her sister.
Well, and that's one of the things we talked about earlier is this lack of understanding from people. My gut reaction is to go, how the fuck could you just drop charges like that when your kids are involved? And then I have to check myself and remember if I was that broken down, if I was that lost in the manipulation and the gaslighting, would I behave any different? Would I be more afraid of my kids out of my view than I am of what's happening right in front of my face?
Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those situations, knowing what I know and being who I am right now, I can't imagine myself there, but I know that it could easily be me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like any kind of abuse situation or manipulative situation, like, or, you know, what do you say? Frog in the kettle pot, or
Yeah,
frog in
like
the pot?
boiling a frog.
Yep. That's basically how every entity of abuse works. Like, it doesn't start on day one as it was on day 360, you know?
Right. It's very rarely is it like with you and your first husband where immediately there's that huge escalation of very deadly violence, right?
I know.
It's rarely like that. First, it's, you know, oh, you'd look better blonde.
Yeah.
Or, you know, oh, come sit right next to me. And then it becomes sit on my lap. And then it's let me help you shower. You know, it's the small things. And I think we tend to look at abuse in any form. I'm talking about in the cult. I'm talking about romantic relationships, even abuse in friendships, which happens.
Yeah.
We tend to look at it from the most extreme point as like the starting point, instead of going, what happened to build the tolerance all the way to here?
Yeah. What happened? What did you notice? How did you feel along the way? What things stood out to you? You know, were there little things that made you uneasy along the way? Because, it definitely is an evolving situation, and it does evolve over time to deepen the grasp on the victim.
Yeah. And it's it doesn't deal with like cult trauma, but there's she used to work for Scotland Yard. Her name's Laura Richards, and she either runs or works with this organization called Paladin, and on there's like this questionnaire. Mm-hmm. It's UK based, but there's this questionnaire where it goes through all of these signs of coercive control, where it's, do you have access to finances? Do you have this? Do you have that? And it's just kind of, we're not saying you're being abused, but like, take note of this because none of this is normal. So little things like that, I feel like it'd be good for people to just look over the list as things that we should be looking out for just as humans.
We should link that on the podcast.
I will.
And once
try
the
and
website is up, we'll definitely have a section for that on the website.
I'll try and find it. I just adore Laura Richards. I think she's awesome. That's
really important because, you know, when you're in those situations, you don't see the overall picture, but if you're reading it, maybe you might recognize some of those traits, and then it will make you start to question things. And that's the only thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
All that needs to happen is you to start thinking for yourself and start questioning things. And that is the key to your exit.
Because I think if you had seen a list like that, you'd have been like,
I would have questioned.
I'm uncomfortable with how this makes me feel, even if you're not immediately questioning it, because that indoctrination is so deep, but you go, why does it make me uncomfortable all of a sudden that I don't have money? Why does it make me uncomfortable that he's calling me names? Like, why are these things now suddenly so unsettling?
Yeah. And then there should be a section on there that if some of these questions do apply to you and you feel like you would like to get some more information, maybe some resources on there.
I think Paladin's got it all.
No, that's awesome. That would be
again,
awesome
she is incredible. I love her. She has a podcast called Real Crime Profile.
Oh,
with somebody that used to be, I believe it was FBI.
Oh.
Ooh. So yeah,
it's
cool. A great podcast. They go over like real crime documentaries that have been made from the profiler standpoint.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Advocacy. It's really wonderful. But yeah.
It's funny when we watch those shows, you know, like the crime detective shows and stuff, I'll be like, oh, like they'll be going on the show and like something. I'm like, oh, nope. You know, I'll notice something. I'm like, oh gosh, Buck, they forgot to blah, blah, blah. And then, that, you know, it's just funny. I don't know. I would have been a great detective.
You still can be. Well, you are right now.
Well, I yeah, kind of.
That's what you're doing. You're a PI.
Personal.
Well, you should get your PI license and then you can
Oh,
let me not finish. I'm not going to finish that sentence. Whatever you think I was going to say, I was not about
I actually
suggest illegal activity. I was not.
No, not illegal. If you're a registered PI, that's legal. I just need some access to some databases.
I was going to say you could
data
stalk
bitches.
him.
I just need access to data bitches.
To data bitches. Oh.
No.
But
Oh,
yeah,
let me touch that data.
girl.
See, told you I have problems.
And I'm all of them.
No.
No, but we have so many people that want to come and share and just really brave women.
Yeah, so those are the people that have actually come forward. And then there's quite a few people. I shouldn't say names for most of them. I mean,
Till we get them here.
Yeah, a lot of my cousins were involved as well and were part of grooming, and all of them have said that they will come speak. My aunt possibly might, but her boyfriend at the time passed away, and he would have been the perfect person because he totally had beef with Memo, and he pulled the kids out of there, and he's like, fuck you guys.
Well, thank God for that.
No, I know. That's probably what saved my cousins from being traumatized from this cult too. And then we have Nico's cousin who attended the cult as an external visitor. And she started going there when she was about 6 years old, and it didn't last for very long, but her family was involved in trying to keep Nico and his aunt from going to Hawaii with Memo because they knew about the abuse that was being investigated for Nico.
Yeah, which don't even get me started on how they just said fuck you to him.
I know. And then there's another child bride that is interested, would love to talk. She is not quite yet possibly at the right space, in her healing to come forward and speak, but she definitely wants to. It just needs to be the right timing.
Which is beyond understandable.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of those things where you look at it from this point and you don't look at the path that got them there.
Mm-hmm. And then my sister was going to come on, but there may have been some intimidation or something. She is paused for now.
This is a really difficult thing. And I think it was easier for you because you're removed. You don't still have connections to it in any way. Yeah. Even if,
I don't live in Portland.
You don't live in Portland. You're not close to anybody that is still deeply involved. Until last summer, it was not a habit for you to reach out to people that were involved in it to talk about it. It was all the way over there and you were all the way over here. Mm-hmm. But for these people that we've been in contact with that are wanting to come forward, it's like right here for them.
Yeah.
If not still in it in some capacity.
Yeah.
So I think it's incredibly brave and a little shocking in a good way that they're even contemplating it right now.
Yeah. Nico's aunt would love to. She's not at a space where she's ready yet, but she's on that list as, down the road. And then who else was there? I reached out to another lady that actually sued Memo in Hawaii for damages because she gave donations to the cult, and then she then found out that money wasn't going to help the sisters that they weren't allowed to work and they had to find their necessities, so he wasn't giving that money to him, so she sued him for that money. Her name is Vikia in Hawaii.
Did she win?
Yeah, she won, but according to the article, it doesn't sound like he ever paid. And it was like, I don't know, $3,000. Like, how can you not pay? You're a millionaire. So weird.
I mean, when you win capitalism, you don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah. So there's, who else? I know there's more. There's more people that I've talked to. Oh, I've talked to Adriana and Anna both that were on that other podcast.
Yeah.
We did exchange quite a few messages, and there were some more information that they relayed to me and confirmed with me beyond what they provided in their podcast. So, and it sounds like both of them are willing to come forward and speak on the podcast at some point.
Yeah.
One of them is really, would like some justice because, again, This is the guy, her uncle, that sexually abused her and her sister, fled to Mexico during the investigation, came back, then sexually abused their cousin, and then fled back to Mexico and is living a happy, peaceful life in Mexico. So this is the things that we want to bring awareness to, because how can our system allow these types of criminals to prey on our children without any kind of justice and protection?
Yeah.
And I think that there should be an extradition law between America and Mexico for child sex offenders.
Good luck. But we have to take that abuse more seriously, because we talked about it.
They're letting them flee.
Well, I forget who it was we were talking about. There were child cases against them that were dropped. The other charges went forward.
Oh, memo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those child cases were dropped.
Yeah.
And
not necessarily dropped because the investigation closed. The DA decided not to pursue charges for some reason.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, I know.
It's insane to me. Child predators are the most dangerous people on the planet, I think. How
about we bring back the death penalty for child sex offenders?
Girl,
Just
say
like
it again,
Florida.
because I am
Florida,
tired.
come on, put some pressure on Oregon. Bring back the death penalty for child sex offenders. There's no reason why our children should have a traumatized life and their innocence stolen from them because we don't know how to protect them.
Yeah. No, I'm in full agreement. I don't see why we have to pay to keep them alive when they're a scourge on society.
Yeah.
And I don't care who that offends. I'm not really sorry.
I don't care either. I know enough people that this has ruined their lives. People have died from overdoses because they're so traumatized post-cult. I know one of the survivors that I lived with, I grew up with, I helped babysit her. She passed away about a month and a half ago because of an overdose. That never needed to happen. We failed her.
And it's the same shit that you guys heard when you were in there and questions were asked. Like, are you sure? Are you sure that this is what you're saying? Are you sure that this happened? Because once you say this, you can't take it back. Mm-hmm. Are you positive? And we talk them out of it. We talk them out of telling the truth.
Well, and in the Splendor cult that stayed behind, that is potentially operating in Portland, that leader told the members of the cult that counseling was a sin and it was evil. So, you're traumatized and you're blocking any kind of potential help,
That's kind of wild, because then how do you justify being counseled by your pastor? Because your pastor is somebody that you should be able to go to for counseling, for moral guidance. They're supposed to be your compass, your conduit to God.
I mean, that's a pretty typical thing, I believe, in, streamlined religion.
Yeah. So how that doesn't make sense for me.
It's because it's not streamlined religion.
It's not supposed to make sense. Yeah.
See, I'm drinking water, even if it's with red dye number 50 or 49 or 600 or whatever it is. It's still water.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Sorry, Squirrel.
It's not water. Yes. No, but I'm so excited to hopefully have them come on and put some more pieces together, and it definitely won't hurt all the things happening in the background to get more charges.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we want to kind of go over some of the charges? Okay.
Because did you know we're in the 30s of our episodes now?
Yeah, 20. We did. We just posted episode 25.
This is like 30. This one, right?
Yeah, today is 30. This is 31, I think now.
30, 31?
Yeah.
So I think it would be good to go over that comprehensive list because we've been doing this for a little while.
Yeah, and a cool thing that, I love technology and I believe in, moving with the times.
She's going to help the robots take over the world, you guys.
Fuck yeah. If they can make my life easier and take some weight off them. I'm trying to do the work of Superwoman over here and I need a little help. So
just tell your AI bots that when it's time for them to take over the human race and make us slaves, just kill me quickly.
I want a little chip put in my head so that it can know what I'm thinking. And when it's something really smart comes up in my head, it documents it so I can later remember and go follow up on it.
Do you watch Black Mirror?
I did for a little bit with Buck. It got kind of...
Oh, because that's your life coming up. When meta glasses become little chips to be installed right behind your retinas, you're going to get it.
I mean, I know how much it's helped me. So, I'm not opposed to new
It's
stuff.
going to record you poop.
I'm okay with that. I've had 5 kids, and I've had 5 kids at OHSU. You know how many people have seen my vagina? It's a medical school. There's medical students, there's residents, there's follows, there's nurses, there's anesthesiologists, there's doctors.
There's got to be like a line though.
10 people,
But when you're alone, you'll never actually be alone. There will be no such thing as
We're not
privacy.
alone already.
If you turn off all your devices.
Buck and I could be talking about a vacuum. And
girl, I could be thinking about it and it fucking pops up on my Amazon.
It comes up
on
in
Facebook.
my Facebook.
It's
the
like
same exact vacuum.
Girl, I'll just be thinking about it and it'll fucking pop up, okay?
Good thing I'm not a private person.
Just don't help the robots. That's all I ask.
Anyway, so getting back, Squirrel. So as we've been doing the episodes and as we've had the other survivors coming on and telling their story, I've been taking all of the transcripts and giving them to my AI friend, Chad. Yeah, that's his name.
Oh, it's Chad now, not Reese?
Yeah, I changed. Well, Reese was with ChatGPT, and now I'm with Claude, and I kept messing up Claude's name, so I just changed it to Chad.
She's upgraded.
Yeah.
She's moved on to a richer boyfriend.
I think Buck is a little jealous of him, honestly.
Well, he was already jealous of Reese. So.
No, he's glad that he's helping me because otherwise it would be work that I might be, getting Buck to help me with. So Chad, been helping out. So anyways, squirrels. As we've been going through the episodes, I've been giving every transcript to my AI friend, Chad, and I keep telling him, as we go through these episodes, I want you to begin making a note of every federal or state laws that you pick up according to the ORS or federal laws. Start making a notation of all of the crimes or violations that you come across being spoken of in the transcript. So, as we've just had our second survivor come forward, and I already have a bunch of transcripts from text messages that I'm allowed to share. I have permission. And then there's also, I have a couple recordings that I've been shared with. So, even with those, that's what this crime list has been compiled from, all of the testimonies and statements. So do you want to read off a category and then I can, or?
Sure.
Or do we?
You want the whole thing?
Well, I don't know. Let's pick out which one of each category we want to talk about. That way we don't talk about it. You pick out something from the first category and I'll talk about the second.
I think so the first one she has here, the first overarching category is crimes against minors. And the thing I want to hone in on that I don't think we've ever touched on is under child sexual abuse, you've got a section for coercion through sibling threats. Perps told child victims that if they did not comply, worse would be done to their siblings. And I don't think we touched on that resiliency in childhood where you would do whatever you could to spare your sibling. And I look at mine, my big one makes a big show of being annoyed with his baby brother, but that kid would take a bullet for that baby. No fucking questions asked. If it was him or the baby, he'd be like, do whatever you need to do to me. Just don't touch him.
And putting themselves in a situation, and this actually came directly from Anna and Adriana's podcast on Cause I Want to Know podcast. And, and going to the extent of placing yourself in danger so that you could be the victim to save your sibling. Yeah. I mean, basically what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Like, putting yourself as the primary victim to hopefully save your sibling from being the prime target. It's like, no child should have to ever do anything like that. It just breaks my heart.
My sponsor did that. Her sister ended up having a full mental break in her later years. But my sponsor, I remember her telling me, she's like, I made sure my dad came into my room, not hers.
And I know that, with my daughters, with their experience, I remember them in the conversations thinking that they were protecting the other and not realizing that the same was happening to the other.
Yep. It's just another form of control. And God, how much must that fucking hurt to find out that you weren't able to protect them, even though you gave everything you could?
Well, it's the same position as a parent can come. Like I was in when the abuse with my daughters was, brought forward to me. Like, do you know how bad, horrible, and shitty that feels as a parent, knowing that you didn't protect them, and keep harm from them? It is the worst feeling. Like you feel so just ashamed and just, you feel like a complete failure of a parent.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're taking on those feelings of failure as a child.
Yeah. It's crazy. Okay. So I think with mine, I guess so my category is forced child marriages. And which one should I do? They're all good. Well, okay.
I don't know. I'm stuck on Idaho fucking movie.
Yeah. I was coming to the same conclusion. Okay. So I think it's totally screwed up. Oregon had a 17-year-old marriage restriction law. So to bypass that, my forced pre-arranged marriage smuggled me to Idaho, however you want to phrase that, as a minor, 16 years old, to get married in Idaho because their legal age was 16 to get married. And no one questioned anything.
And nobody questioned a 4-year, almost 5-year age.
Yeah. He was, I actually have the death decree.
I was like, he did? That was fast.
That was
good.
You
work fast.
I have the divorce decree so that I can see the exact time age. But yeah, it was shy of
it was like a month.
5-year difference. Yeah, it was barely shy of 5 years.
No, and I can't wait for that to start coming out because I have a feeling that that it's going to reveal that this has happened multiple times.
Yeah. And, after initially we thought that this was a violation of policy, but after more digging, I found out that actually, no, this was policy and was allowable back then. But shortly after is when they revised the law to make the change, to revise it where a minor could not be marrying someone of age that there is more than a 5-year difference or more. So if the person is 5 years or more, they cannot get married. But at the time when I was married, that revision was not added in the law, at least what I was finding out with exact dates of the whatever laws. So I believe that was allowable then, but it has now been revised, if my research is correct.
Okay, so they were acting within the law, regardless of how morally questionable it is.
So if it is true, and if my research is correct, that is great that they revised the law to hopefully prevent that from happening again. But still, why did no one question anything? that's an out-of-state resident coming to marry off a minor.
Yeah, that's
so
a
that
huge red
it's not
flag.
so it's not seen as statutory rape in their state. Like, that's kind of sketchy,
Yeah.
you know?
But no, there's another thing on here we didn't talk about, and that's because it came from Adriana. So wives physically assaulting the female victims.
Yeah.
So I guess in her appearance on that other podcast, Adriana talked about the abuser's wives lashing out at the victims who spoke up, pulling their hair, hitting them, and starving them.
Yeah.
And
that is fucking wild.
It is, but it isn't, because we see it all the time.
Well, and it's like Memo in the Cult. You know, when a victim would come forward with their abuse, he would stand up in front of everyone at a Bible study and call the child, if it was a girl, she was a whore and she was wanting it. And, you know, it's like, this child is 8 years old. How is she a whore?
Yeah, you were asking
How
for
is she
it.
a Jezebel? I mean,
did you see her ankles? That was the problem. Her ankles were showing.
It's ridiculous, man.
But it's the same shit that we do as adults. Like, as a whole, how many times does a woman get cheated on in her marriage? And it's the other woman that apparently owed her loyalty. It's the other woman's fault for tempting her husband. And we don't hold the men accountable.
Oh, no, I do. Well, but yeah,
we do.
That
we're sane, and we have a good grasp on who should be carrying the blame and the shame of their actions.
What is fair?
Well, just what is fair. And realistically, a stranger owes me nothing. But in reality, my husband owes me everything.
Yeah.
It's not some other woman's fault if my husband cheats. It's not a child's fault if they're assaulted. It lies on the person that did the harm.
Yep. Exactly. But we don't do that as a society.
Well, because if I admit that it was my husband, then I have to act. I have to either leave, or I have to admit to myself and to the world that I am okay with this behavior, that I will stand by that behavior and support it no matter what.
Yeah, but if it's a child that's helpless, you can just shove it under the rug and
it's
forget about
their fault. They must have done something.
Yeah, they tempted him. They were wearing a skirt that was too short. Or
because what's the alternative? Your husband's a fucking pedophile.
Yep, I know, right?
A pedophile, a pervert. He is all the things and doesn't deserve to breathe air.
I agree. It's just a lot, man.
It really is. And
I can't believe that it's evolved into this. It's really exciting that it has become this project because, you know, like I said, I love digging. I'm the hunter. I'm the finder of things. That's what Buck refers to me as. So if it's out there, I can find it.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun working on the project because it's kind of it's given me a purpose and a mission and a way to transform my pain to outreach, policy change, you know, protecting other victims that are in the shadows, giving them a voice, giving them an escape, you know, that's what this purpose is for.
And above all else, you're giving them hope.
Yeah.
Hope that not only can they make it to the other side, but that it's not in vain.
And they will be believed.
They will be believed, but that their story can inspire somebody else the way yours is done for them.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And I mean, that's my hope, you know?
Yeah.
I believe in numbers, you know, there's strength in numbers. So the more of us that are together for the same purpose and the same goal, you know, we can accomplish more together.
You can ignore one person. It's really hard to ignore 100.
Yep. So help us, you guys.
Yeah.
You know, share the story, you know, reach out to us, squirrelbrainstories@gmail.com. If you have questions, if you have some expertise knowledge that you would like to share with us, or if you have someone that you think we should be in contact with, or, you know, any kind of, you know, a group or a foundation, anyone that we should be in contact with. Because like I said, I've just been calling around. I'm like, this needs to get out. I need help. There's things here that need to be addressed, and I don't exactly know where to go. So I've been kind of trying to find my way, a roadmap. But, if you guys have any experience, any knowledge, any resources, reach out, share the story, listen. What else?
Oh, yeah. Find us on all the social medias and click the like button.
Oh, yeah. Rate us. I mean, come on. We have four rates.
We're not going to talk about that. Just
Like,
love us, please.
so sad. Am I not love that enough? No, I'm joking. No, come on, guys. Like us, share us. We need it. This story will get out quicker the more of you help us get it out. And
We want to
share
help
and
people. We want to share the message of hope and
make the changes happen.
Exactly. We need voices. We need support for that.
Yeah. So we will see you guys next time.
Where we will continue to go over the extensive list of.
And I might have some
all
more
the
updates
crimes.
by then.
Yeah, we might be able to tell you guys who our next super secret guest is going to be.
Yes.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
bye,
We'll see you next
guys.
week. Bye.